Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who was a wizard for a short period of time, but he got his past taken away from him when he tried to turn another army into tiny pigs like Bavmorda from Willow, but instead turned the opposing army into a gang of massive boars, which destroyed his army and got him fired. It's John Leavengood.
I feel like I should have gotten a promotion for that.
No, but your army got destroyed because you turned the opposing army into it.
Oh, that's not good.
Because remember on Willow,
it was a big misfire.
Remember on Willow when she was like, "You're
all pigs."
Yeah, and then they all turned into pigs. So you walked up all sassy, and you were like, "Y'all pigs," and they turned into massive boars and just wiped out your army, and then you got fired from the Wizarding School of Wizards. But I mean, it was a pretty good trick. You just didn't control it.
Bummer.
You know?
That's too bad.
That's not a bad, that's a pretty good trick, I guess, to do that. You couldn't control your magic. People are like, "Hey, John, can I have a burger?" And you would just have a cow land on them.
That's like when Shredder made Toka and Razor, but they were from baby animals, so they were just very kind in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 2.
Yeah, that's your kind of magic. I need an army of evil sheep, and you just turn like what's that movie in New Zealand? Black Sheep.
Black Sheep.
Yeah, but then you take like little adorable baby sheep and you turn them into mutated sheep, and they're just sweethearts, and everyone's just petting them. And the army gets nothing done because there's just a bunch of
lambs.
Yeah, there's a bunch of adorable lambs running around. What do you think?
Yeah.
What would happen in Willow if Bavmorda accidentally turned all these things into the boars as opposed to pigs?
Dude, her army would have been utterly decimated. Those boars, like our movie boars.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean it would be like unleashing Jurassic Park on that army.
I mean, those doors they had would not stand a chance.
No, these things. These are like this is like a 5,000 or 10,000 pound boar. This thing is just gonna dump truck through it.
And they can teleport.
Dude, so much teleporting. This is Jason Voorhees like taking Manhattan teleporting.
So I'm watching this movie, and so all right. So get this, John. During the fall, when leaves have fallen, Megan and I go walk this trail, and squirrels sound like bears, right? Because it's a squirrel trouncing on dry leaves, and it just sounds like a deer running, but it's a tiny squirrel or a chipmunk. This boar can walk through wooded areas with a lot of deadfall and branches and leaves on the ground, and it makes no noises. And it's at least 1,000 pounds, right?
Oh, no. I mean, so this thing I would estimate is like 8,000 or 10,000 pounds.
Whoa. Oh, yeah, it's huge. That's a lot of bacon.
Well, it's a conservative estimate, right, for this movie Boar, because in the movie Pig Hunt, it was a 3,000 pound boar, but it was not nearly as big as this. The guy compared it to a rhino, so I looked up rhino stats, and really bulky rhinos.
Yeah.
And really bulky rhinos, right? Because this boar is actually much thicker around than a rhino is. But the biggest rhinos get to 8,000-9,000 pounds, which is very, very, very unusual, and are like 6 to 7.5 feet at their shoulder. This thing at its shoulder was taller than almost 7 foot tall Nathan Jones.
Yep.
I mean, this could be 15,000 pounds. This thing's gigantic.
And it can sneak up on people.
With amazing skill.
I love this boar. I was reading a lot of interviews. Chris Sun, the director, was talking about how it took him about 6 months to do this. So they said we first started building the pig in December of 2014 and didn't start shooting until late 2015. With independent films, sometimes you have hurdles to overcome, and unfortunately, we had some major hurdles with this. If not for those hurdles, there would have been two or three more kills in the film. And also he said like it was a pain in the butt, and it took a long time to shoot. He's like, I loved it, but you bring this hog on set, and you plan for a 12-hour day. That 12-hour day turns into 2 days. Those 2 days turn into 6 weeks, and they actually got. It was 3 people inside this boar. Did you read this?
No, I just figured it was a big animatronic Jurassic Park monster.
No, yeah, so they took about 6 months to build it. And, the reason being, the guy hates the beach, the director, Chris Sun. And then he said that Rogue is already a great crocodile movie, and they already have bait. And they're actually much more expensive to do water movies. So he went for the pig. It took 6 months to build. There was 2 pigs that were built, 3 people inside. One of the people worked the head. Another person worked the shoulders and did breath. And another one did the breathing and moved the tail. And he said it was about 70% practical, 30% CGI. And it was a really low budget movie.
Yeah, I mean, the CGI, from what I could infer, was only 3 scenes, basically. And it was always when it was running.
Yeah. Trucking people.
It runs by the screen once before it teleports way towards the end of the movie. And then when it charges 2 different people and one of the attacks with the charge. But it's like whenever the thing is just stationary and attacking someone, or whenever we're just looking at this beast, I thought, I can't get over how happy I was about this thing, man. I thought this monster was magnificent. Yeah, is it as sleek as CGI can be? Like, you know, it was a little clunky and clumsy at times when it's snapping its jaw. But this thing made me so happy to see.
I think it had a little bit of Deep Blue Sea effect where I love the practicals designed in Deep Blue Sea, but some of the CGI is super wonky. I mean, there's about a 90, well, with inflation, probably $100 million difference. But also a funny thing, they said with this pig, if they had to move it 5 feet, they had to get 6 people, put rods into it, or like 8 people to put rods into it and then move it 5 feet. And it became a massive job.
Like you're moving the emperor's throne.
Yeah, exactly. Like in 300 when Xerxes is getting carried and all those people underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting, just reading about the practical effects of this movie. I thought that was cool.
God bless Chris Sun, though, because this monster is awesome.
Now, you've seen his other movies. What's Charlie's Farm or Daddy's Little Girl? What are those movies like?
So I haven't seen Daddy's Little Girl, but I did see Charlie's Farm, which I went out of my way to see just because it stars Nathan Jones, right? And that's like the first mainstream movie, I should say, because he starred in something called Muay Thai Giant ages ago, but most people haven't heard of it. But that was the first movie that Nathan Jones really starred in that was mainstream, Charlie's Farm, if we're calling that mainstream. And he played this kind of like Leatherfacian monstrosity. And that movie, kind of like this movie, gets off to a start where the first 20, 30 minutes you're like, just how B is this movie? And then, though, it kind of hits its crescendo and the action is really high, the brutality is really high, the squishiness and the effects are pretty high, and it ends up being very satisfying. But I will say that Charlie's Farm strikes me as Chris Sun's real introduction to trying to be brutal or gross. And Boar, I feel like he mastered it and his only limitation was budget.
Got it. Now, I have a question for you, John, and it's really unfair and it's kind of lazy. But I'm going to have you rank Bait, Rogue, Boar, and Razorback. Hey, there's a theme. So rate the 4 of them. One is best, 4 is worst. But you like all of them, I'm assuming.
Boar is number 1.
Whoa.
Yeah, for me, Boar is number 1. Now, number 2, I don't know if I could pick between Razorback and Rogue. I don't think, because Rogue benefits from such a superior, it just, I don't know. It feels so refined, Rogue. I love a lot of the shots in Rogue, and the action is way more exciting, their utility of CGI in that, and some physical effects. So if I'm forced to pick, I'm probably going to pick Razorback, but it's just because it's more of a classic-y thing. If they both came out at the same time, I'd tie them. And then Bait, Bait was just okay to me. I don't need to see Bait again. But all the other 3 I liked. And I've got Boar at the top. And if it, I only even saw Boar because I only saw Razorback because Boar exists. I thought incorrectly when the trailers for this came out like almost 2 years ago, I just assumed this was a remake of Razorback. And so I'm like, well, now I got to go see Razorback first.
That movie. All right, I guess I'm going to do mine real quick. I'm going to go with
Rogue. Is Rogue 1 for you?
Razorback, Razorback, Rogue, Bait, Boar.
You're putting Boar at the bottom?
But the thing is, I like all of them. It's like saying, hey, I'd rather have a 7.5 ounce filet mignon than a 6.2 ounce filet mignon. Does that make sense?
But to the point, Yeah. But to the point of our Australian animals functioning as monsters movies, you quite liked Bait.
Yes.
For me, it was fun, but
I love the idea of it. It was $20 million, but I love how economical it was, just placing people inside a flooded area with sharks. But I love shark movies, much like you love boar movies. So I really liked the boars. I like that. You know what I really liked about Boar and Rogue is that a lot of people survive in these films. At the end of Boar, there's a fair amount of survivors. At the end of Bait, there's a fair amount of survivors. Rogue, no. But
we'll get to it. But at the end of Boar, they pulled a fast one on us, and it should have been 2 fewer survivors.
They pulled a vacancy when Luke Wilson was gutted from he was gutted with a 12-inch knife and through his entire stomach, bled out all night. Then in the morning just went,
they pulled a vacancy.
I mean, obviously, I guess in the movie, in this world, we either bleed slower. In the world of Boar and Vacancy, people probably bleed slower, or arteries heal quicker, or they have more blood.
They heal like the lichens in Underworld.
But no, I mean, so Boar, right? I guess for me, this movie, it's supposed to be about what Nathan Jones and I don't like seeing Bill Moseley look normal, by the way. Seeing Bill Moseley as Bruce, a normal fella, it's just weirded me out.
What's really odd about that is that I have seen him on social media, when he's at conventions and stuff, and he looks exactly like himself, right? In this movie. It's like, hey, just show up and dress like you're a boring dad with a cell phone holster on your hip kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so he looks exactly like you would look if you see people posting pictures at a horror con when they took a picture with him. I did not realize that was him until 30 minutes into the movie.
Oh, wow.
Because again, I'm just like, where's Bill? There was one point where I even said, where's Bill Moseley? Oh my God, that's Bill Moseley. I didn't even realize it.
And he wanted to eat the butt out of a low-flying duck.
You're right. But, the crotch. That was such a weird quote.
Yeah. And I guess they're supposed to be the main stars, but in the beginning you have those people in the truck, and then there's about 30 minutes of John Jarrett, Jarrett, I don't know, I'm not quite sure of his name, him and his buddy walking around a field calling each other mate and being drunk.
Right.
And then you have this couple that gets killed pretty quickly. Then you have another couple who for some reason went out and got lost in the woods, and then he screams. I think my favorite part of this movie is these two people are in the woods, and they're being hunted. And we're going to get our PG-13 rating here, but this guy looks at his wife, and he goes, "Would you shut the fuck up?" And then she looks at him, and she's like, "That was really rude." And he's like, "Yeah, my bad." And I'm like, "What?" And then they get killed, and then we switch to the A plot. So it's it's just interesting how the movie... It's like vignettes, I guess, this film.
Well, it's like early Game of Thrones. You start seeing 5 minutes or 10 minutes of someone's story. Then you jump to someone else's unrelated story and someone else's unrelated story. And eventually we find out how they're related.
Yeah. It was just
which is giving it a little too much credit, I think, though, because the first 30 minutes of this movie honestly had me very, very, very worried. Because the first kill... these people just driving down the road, you don't see anything happen.
Nothing.
Right? You see nothing, which for the first kill of a movie, that's often where you set a standard and give a gory scene, because then it's going to be slow for 30 minutes after that, right? But this movie didn't do that. It's like you just know that they died. And then the second death, then it started to try a little harder, but it was a little hokey and not much interesting happens on screen. It's not until the third death, the couple where the guy snaps at his wife and then apologizes, that you really see something on screen that is truly exciting happen. And then you see the monster more than just its head. And at that point, I'm like, okay, good. This isn't a mistake.
What did you think about, so the second, or I guess the third death, because there's that couple. But there's this guy and his dog disappears. Dog's Whiskey. And this guy just starts walking through the Australian, not quite the outback, but he starts walking through open fields. They're using tubes of death. So much smoke. We talk about Under Strangers Pray at Night and Sleepy Hollow Pods. A lot of smoke. And then it's just a guy yelling at a dog who's off screen. He's going, "Whiskey! Whiskey, get back!"